Hey, indie filmmakers, I'm Griffin Hammond.
I'm Nick Bodmer, and on this week's episode, Griffin has to give up his video production office for a very good reason.
Plus, your questions about Final Cut keyboard shortcuts, creating a nighttime lighting effect, and are you allowed to use stock footage in your film? Hello, Nick.
Hey, Griffin. How are you?
I'm good. I'm facing the other direction this week, so I think I've swapped our two shots.
So I don't have to get flipped,
right?
Which is
normally
nice.
You're reversed.
Why is that, Griffin?
You can't
lost
see it,
your
but
office.
I'm in my living room right now. We got couches around. I've actually moved my entire production, all my equipment, my computer and desk and everything into the living room because I no longer get an office.
How come?
Well, you know the reason. I don't know how we want to tell everyone.
Drum roll. We do a drum roll. Everybody can guess it. Say it together.
Well, it's because there's a crib in my office now.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to be a father.
Congratulations. I've told you this already, but now I get to do so on the air to everyone.
You know what I really wanted to do that I failed to do? This always happens, is that when we were in... Amy and I were both in your home like a couple months ago, and I wish that I had been recording when we told you that Amy's pregnant. And I always miss those opportunities because I think like Kristen, your wife, offered Amy a drink right away, and she was like, "No, I can't do it. I'm pregnant."
And we went a little crazy.
Yeah,
I was pretty excited.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I'm kind of glad you didn't record that because then I would probably look silly. Because
I'm sure you said something nice and awesome, and I don't know.
Nice and awesome. Okay, just imagine everyone that I was nice and awesome.
Right.
I like that.
So, I have some questions because you are a father 3 times over, and this is all going to be new to me.
3 times. Professional.
And I know that I'm going to be asking your help a lot in advice, but like, how early can I teach my son? Oh, I'm having a son, by the way.
Very exciting.
How early can I teach my son how to shoot and edit video?
I mean, if you haven't started already, you're probably making a mistake.
You mean like in the womb, I should be talking about keyboard shortcuts
you get
and
the
stuff?
headphones, and you just start playing Werner Herzog's, masterclass on loop, and it'll become intrinsic.
Yeah.
No, I think it's funny. I think I've got a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and they all. I mean, with modern smartphones, they love taking videos and doing all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I think as you might imagine, they can actually start doing that kind of stuff from a very early age, and I haven't even pushed it. They just like doing that. They steal my phone and go shoot videos of each other doing silly stuff. So realistically, quite early, I would say.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose this kid's not going to have much choice. He's probably going to be in my YouTube videos.
I would guess so, yes. One problem you'll have, though, is you'll go and look at your phone and you're like, why do I have 57 2-minute videos of like The Wall? And they're not very good videos, but they do fill up your device pretty fast.
All right. Well, it's interesting because if you recall, like maybe a few months ago, we answered a question from Tobias about finding that balance of having a family and finding time to edit. And he actually wrote in just to say kind of an update on that question. He said that he just finished his first ever filmmaking project, a short narrative film, but it was tough with his family and his kids. So what he did was he just shot the whole thing at night when everyone was asleep. And then he spent like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there editing whenever he could just on his laptop. But he was able to complete a short narrative film. He just had to find special time for it.
Yeah, that sounds like might be a vision of your life here coming up pretty soon. Staying up late when you're already tired to get work done.
Right. Well, yeah, like how sleep deprived am I about to be?
Oh, yeah, you're going to be pretty sleep deprived. The first couple months are rough, but like you forget about them really fast, and then you just keep doing it over and over again. That's how it works. It's no big deal. It's easy, Griffin. It's easy. Easy. Don't even worry. And I don't think you are. You don't strike me as someone who's worried about the shakeup that's coming. Is that true?
I mean, I'm not. I'm always an optimistic person. I think I'm looking forward to letting becoming a father change me in a positive way. Like I'm sure I can be more patient and like, I don't know. I've never had to like take care of another person like this.
It'll be fun.
Teach a human how to be a human.
That's the fun part, right? It's getting them off right.
Yeah.
Teaching them all the fun stuff. Like you said, like you will teach them how to make videos and stuff. I know you were probably joking when you said that, but you will, and that'll be cool.
It's weird to think though that like before I even do that, I have to teach this kid how to like sleep and eat and like it's funny just to think
those
of
are the
basics.
tough ones.
Yeah,
but it works. You know, it's
and
all
then we can
innate.
work on
It'll
empathy and human psychology and and then filmmaking.
And then filmmaking, yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe concurrent.
Right.
So what do you think? Is this gonna change your video production scheduling? What's your game plan there?
Well, yeah, like my biggest concern, and when we've talked about this, is like, well, especially during the beginning when we have a newborn and I'm sleep deprived and like I don't even know. We have a small apartment, and so I don't know how to record the podcast when like there'll be a crying baby, right? Like,
there will be.
This baby will cry sometimes.
There definitely will be. Right.
So I think it may be difficult to rely on like a consistent, like our current schedule for recording the podcast.
Sure.
Because that may not always be reliable. So I think what I want to do going forward is probably try to record more episodes in batches rather than right now we like find 45 minutes every week to do it. In fact, we got a question from Johnny that's very similar to this. He says, so I recently started a podcast and I'm really happy with what I'm making. However, editing is a big undertaking and I find it hard to keep the podcast consistent. How do you guys manage uploading every week? Do you set aside a specific time to edit? And do you record multiple episodes in one sitting? So yeah, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, we do all those things. We have a kind of a specific time, or at least a couple time options that we try and target each week for recording, right? You know, usually it's
it's like either Monday or Tuesday
mornings. And then mornings are preferred, and sometimes that doesn't work, so we have to do a late night one.
Yeah. And sometimes it's difficult, or we'll do like a special like weekend recording, or sometimes we will record 2 episodes at once. But for the most part, we actually do them like, I mean, we're doing this on a Tuesday, and it will be edited later this afternoon by John Luna. John, by the way, I think we'll have him on next week's episode to talk to him. Finally, we haven't had him on the podcast.
Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Talk about how he gets this edited for us. It's nice to have somebody else who comes in and helps us with the edit for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly could do it, but John saves me several hours by doing that on most weeks. So that does help us with the timing. And then we put it out the next day. So we kind of bring it down to the wire every week.
Yeah, we do. Have we ever missed a week?
Yeah, I think we've had to skip one because of you traveling or something. I mean, or sometimes we just get creative and do like, I think once or twice we've done like a short episode instead of a full 45-minute episode.
Right. Or like sometimes we'll record a whole episode for 45 minutes and I won't have recorded any audio. And so
yeah, that kind of things happen.
Although,
creative. You know, it's funny, like, what is this? This is episode 78. And early on we were doing a lot of editing, and maybe this is also to Johnny's question. At the beginning, there was a lot of editing required because you and I would mess up, or we'd run out of things to talk about or something. Like we'd just get nervous and like mess up, and so there was just a lot of editing to cover up these mistakes or things that we said that we didn't want to say on camera. But I think for the last 30 or 40 episodes or so, it's been pretty solid. Like we pretty much record it live to tape and it's ready to publish. with no like.
We don't. Yeah, not a lot of cutting out of content or trimming things or redoing lines or anything.
Yeah.
Which is actually amazing that I have even gotten to this mediocre level of ability to record these. I'm kind of amazed at myself.
Well, so guess
this
how
is
many.
not my skill set, folks.
So this is episode 78. In the previous 77 episodes that we've done, and we've gotten better. Like that should be the message to everyone, that if you do something like this, the longer you do it, you get better at it. But how many hours of podcasting would you guess that we've done?
Okay, 78 episode, or 7. Are we counting this one? Or counting the last one? 77.
Yeah,
I'm gonna average 30 minutes an episode. I think they're usually longer, but I think we've had a lot of short ones. So I don't know, something like 30 or 40 hours.
It's more than that, because our average must be much higher than that. I mean, I think our average is probably closer to like 45 minutes. So we've actually done 56 hours of this podcast.
Wow. Now we need someone to do like a marathon where they listen to the entire thing nonstop until it's over.
So that would take you more than 2 days to listen to all of them back to back to back.
It's probably not worth the time, just to put it out there.
So,
well, that's awesome.
So I know that we're going to have to change up how we do the podcast, because I'm already like, now I don't even have a dedicated room anymore. I had to tear down that retractable camera thing that I had in my closet.
Yep.
Because I've now moved all my filmmaking stuff to a different closet. So what I want to do is I want to keep you and I together in videos. I want to keep answering people's questions, and I want to keep distributing this on YouTube and as an audio podcast feed.
Okay.
But
you're saying I'm not fired?
You're not fired, no.
Not yet. Okay, good.
But what I think we should do is, one, I think we should get rid of the episode numbering system.
Okay.
Like, I don't really like titling videos with like an episode number. I just think it gets kind of clunky. Also, I don't really like I don't really like naming episodes. It's hard to name an episode when it covers a bunch of different topics. Like today, I think we're going to answer like 10 questions from the audience. So it's kind of like, what do you call the episode?
What do you name it? Yeah, exactly. Mailbag.
And then also, people love, there's a dedicated audience that loves this 45-minute format, but for the most part, it doesn't reach nearly the broad audience that a 5-minute video could do. And I know a lot of people want to see me making more of those really tightly edited 5-minute videos. So one, knowing that my schedule is going to change and I want to be able to make more of those really tight tutorial videos, I think that we should keep answering questions, but make them into much shorter episodes. Like maybe we record a bunch of answers to questions at once and then release them as their own distinct
in batches.
Answers.
Yeah.
We could even like take a bunch of questions about microphones and just do like an episode on, here's like 3 microphone questions or something.
Okay, makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I know the people that have listened to this point of this episode who are already 15 minutes into an episode, or maybe not quite 15 minutes yet.
They're like, why, God, why?
Right. But I do think the point of the podcast has always been to help as many people as possible, and I think we can reach a lot more people if we just make it a little bit more targeted.
Well, and one thing that I've been feeling as we've gotten this podcast along is, at the beginning we had really good topics to cover on each episode that you and I could kind of relate our experience to, and we've kind of run out of time. We kind of covered it all, at least everything we could think of, and so these have just kind of become mailbag episodes, which is great, but I think maybe a different format does fit that a little bit better. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we launched the podcast right when I was about to like embark on this like 2 years of traveling to a bunch of countries, and I had a lot of things on my plate, and so we kind of knew that there'd be fodder every week, that I'd be in a different city and all that. And now it'll be like I'm exhausted and stuck in my apartment with my baby.
You might want to try wording it a little differently moving forward. But that's okay. Hey, you're still learning. You're still learning this stuff. It's
right?
good.
Yeah. Still figuring out how to talk about it.
Okay, so shorter, more focused episodes, and maybe not on a dedicated weekly schedule. Is that accurate?
Right. Yeah. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have an episode next week with John Luna, and then I'm gonna be at a wedding the week after that. So we're gonna take 1 week off, and then on October 3rd we're gonna do our final full length episode number 80. Nice round number, and then we may take a few weeks off just to figure out what the new format is, and then we'll go from there.
Love it.
Cool.
Should we answer some questions?
Yeah. Let's see. So our first question today is a tweet from Matter Graphica, and he was wondering, do you know what this thing is? He's showing a picture of that clappy thing they use in filmmaking with the striped lines on it. Do you know what that thing's called?
I would call it a slate. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's called a slate. He's wondering what it's called. He said the filming board or something, which is close, because it's also called a clapboard. And he's wondering, how does it help with post-production? Why would you ever use this thing?
I think it has two important jobs. One is you put data on the front of it that is filmed with information like the date and what take you're doing, etc. So you can identify different takes in post-production. And two, the clapping portion of it gives you a visual and audio sync point. So your separate audio recordings, you could find that loud noise and line it up with when the clappers touch, and that's how you sync your audio in post.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you can imagine looking at this in your edit. If every time you started the camera, it's looking at a slate, just, your bin is just full of a bunch of clips that show you exactly at the beginning what this is. Is this take number 3? Oh, well, we took notes on set that said take number 3 was the greatest take, so there you go. It's easy to find it. And then as far as the clap goes, you don't even necessarily need a clapper board for this. You could, people do this a lot in shooting interviews. In fact, we did this at the beginning of our episode that we shot together in Vegas. We did a clap on camera so that all 3 cameras could be synced up to the audio track.
Yep.
Or even if all the cameras have their own audio, that's a way to sync all the cameras to each other.
We got an email from Titus, who emails us to let us know that he's been watching the podcast, and he did not know about favorites, and said that was very helpful. But he says he's wondering, he was never trained in Final Cut. I know keywords were mentioned, which I've never used either. Maybe there are other tricks and tips we could help him with, like color grading, touching up audio, organization, or useful hotkeys. Yeah.
So yeah, he's talking about, a few weeks ago we talked about you can select a span of a clip in Final Cut and hit F to mark it as a favorite, and that kind of throws it into its own folder where you can access it quickly later, which we talked about. It's not really my style of editing. I kind of throw everything into the timeline and edit in the timeline. I don't do a lot of organization in the bin, although sometimes I use keywords. So for that, I do Command K to bring up the keyword thing. But just thinking of quick, important keystrokes that I use, one of them would be, if I have a clip selected, when I'm doing color correction, I'll do Command 7, which brings up the waveform. So I can see how dark are the shadows, how bright are the highlights, where are my midtones. And then I can also hit Command 6, which brings up the color correction for that particular clip. So I'm almost always using both those back to back. Command 6, Command 7, bring up the waveform and the color grading, and then I can adjust my shot while looking at the waveform, and then hit Command 7 again to throw the waveform away.
And I edit a lot on a laptop, so those are huge because they take up a ton of screen space, so you don't want them there all the time, but you want them there quickly when you need them, so those are important to learn.
And then for audio, I kind of wish there were better, sometimes I feel like it takes me a while to set all the little keyframes and sliders on audio, but if you do Option click, you can create a new I guess it's a keyframe. Those little
Keyframe,
points on the audio to pull down and push up the audio. But one thing that I use a lot, a keystroke that really helps me is, I guess it's Control plus. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Do you ever use this one? Control plus, Control minus?
Zoom?
No, that's Command plus.
Oh, that's Command. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Control
zoom in
plus
and out.
minus. Oh, is that relative audio level adjustment?
Yeah, it just sends the entire thing up 1 decibel or down 1 decibel. So even if you've already set all your ups and downs and all that, you could just decide, oh, this thing's a little bit too loud overall, and I might just do Control minus minus and drop it down 2 decibels or something.
And it's a relative adjustment, meaning all of your keyframes will move that amount. It's not.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see if they all go down the exact same
relative
amount. So like right now I'm looking at a clip that has like a negative 12 dB setting, and then it drops down to a negative 20. And if I do Control minus minus, now I'm at a negative 14 and a negative 22. So yeah, they all go down. Yeah.
The same amount. It's in the menus too. You'll see there's 2 different audio adjustments. There's absolute and relative, and absolute will basically eliminate, the differences in your keyframe. So I use that sometimes when I just want to silence a track. I'll absolute and I'll hit negative 99 or whatever and hit enter. It just silences the whole thing.
Another keystroke that I use a lot for audio, just for like monitoring audio and checking it, is Option S. Do you ever use that one?
Nope.
Option S is whatever track you have or whatever clip you have highlighted. You hit Option S, it will solo just that clip audio.
Yep.
So now
I use the GUI for that. I do not have that one internalized.
The graphical user interface, is that what GUI is?
Yes. Yes.
I don't even know where the button is for that.
There's a little. It looks like a pair of headphones.
Okay.
I don't have Final Cut in front of me, so I forget where it is, but it's on screen somewhere.
Yeah, I like Option S because it's not too hard of a keystroke. But that way I can silence, like, just listen to this clip. I can turn off the music for a second because a lot of times I have 3 different layers of audio going, and I may try to make it sound normal. Or I do that a lot with music, actually. If I'm cutting 2 music clips together, I'll select the music, do Option S to silence everything else so I can make sure the audio edit sounds really good on its own, and then turn everything else back on. I also don't think that solo changes how you export. I think it just changes like how you're monitoring it.
What you're monitoring. Yep.
Yeah, so it doesn't actually disable the clips. It just turns them off in your headphones. Any other keystrokes you use that are critical?
There's one you're going to have to, I just, without actually editing, I can't figure out what it is in my head, so I know you'll know it. The blade tool where you can blade through every track at once. What is that keystroke?
That must be Command-Shift-B. Let's see. Yep, that's it. So Command-B.
So normally, go ahead.
Well, yeah, there's kind of 3 B things. One, if you just hit B, it'll bring up the blade tool, and then you can click on what you want to cut. But if you do Command B, it'll actually make a cut on your primary storyline where the playhead is. But that's just on the one clip on the primary storyline. If you do Command Shift B,
well, let me just ask a question real quick. Is it the primary storyline or is it the selected clip?
It might be the selected clip. You're right. It's the selected clip. Yeah. I think if nothing is selected by default, it'll do the primary storyline.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you do Command Shift B, it'll slice through everything that's touching the playhead. So that's useful.
Very handy at times.
Yeah, when you're cutting a wedding or a multi-camera interview, anything where you have a lot of cameras going or a bunch of audio tracks or something.
Though I find I use that less now that I've gotten pretty good at using compound clips. So if I were, say, doing a wedding, I might have, a multi-camera clip that has all my camera angles in it. And then if I'm going to edit, it down, I would, step back a level where I just have one single compound clip that I'm editing. So that's something else to think about as you edit is where do compound clips make sense? Because they can make that kind of thing a whole lot easier without losing sync.
So our next question is an email from Jack, who is planning to shoot a music video at the end of the month, and he's filming on a GH5 and a Sony a6000. He has 3 lights. 2 of them are bicolor LEDs, and one is like a stick light, kind of like the ice light. like a lightsaber sort of thing. And the artist who's performing the music wants this to feel like a nighttime vibe. And he's just worried about how do you light to make it look like night. He was playing around with like, I think Final Cut has a nighttime look you can apply, but it looks kind of gimmicky, and he just doesn't think that's going to look professional. So he's just wondering, like, is there anything he can do to make that work?
That's kind of a tough one. I don't know. What do you think? It probably makes sense to shoot at night. I mean, 3 lights makes it tough. You might need more light than that to properly light it. What are your thoughts there, Griffin?
I mean, one, I would think, unless you're trying to make this look completely realistic, like music videos usually have a very kind of, I don't know, what would you call it? Not hyper real, but I'm losing my vocabulary here. But like, it can look exaggerated and interesting and produced. Like, I don't think, I think you want it to be lit well. But if you want it to feel like nighttime light, a lot of times what people do is just put a blue gel on the light. Like, you could make the background look blue and maybe light your subject with a more white looking light. But I've done that before, like when I was trying to do like a nighttime shoot. It almost looks like it's lit by the moon or something when you do like a blue light. So I would play around with just throwing gels on your lights and do some test shoots and see if you like the way that looks. But clearly, like all things that we do for video, you need light. You can't just like turn off all the lights and be like, well, it looks like night now. Like that won't work either. That'll look very unprofessional.
All right, we've got a Facebook message from Epi. I want to buy a fixed ND filter instead of a variable one. I remember you talking about your favorite strengths on your podcast, but I can't seem to find the episode. Can you tell me which strength you prefer? I assume he's talking about ND filter.
Right.
Gradients.
I don't remember the episode either that we talked about the ND filter.
Well, there's
strengths.
Like 76 of them back there to go look through. So just watch them all. It's only going to take you 56 hours or whatever.
2 days, yeah.
And you'll find it.
So the one I'm using right now, I'm using, I'm shooting at f1.8 or 1.6 right now, and I'm pretty well lit. So I've thrown a 2-stop ND filter on my camera. And that's kind of just for the podcast, because it just happens to be the exact strength I need. But when I'm outside in the sun, on like moderate sun, I really like a 3-stop filter. And then I found when I was in the desert, I would need as much as like 9 stops. So I have a 3-stop and a 6-stop, and I can put them together to make 9 stops for like the most intense light. And then if it's just like a normal, really sunny day here in New York, I probably need a 6-stop filter. So I find the 3 and the 6 give me a lot of versatility. And I don't really need a variable ND for that anymore.
Beautiful.
So we have a tweet from a paddling duck. This is a good question for you, Nick, who he has an SSD, a solid state drive. So he already knows that's good. That'll speed up his editing performance. But then he's wondering on the RAM side of things, what amount of RAM is good for Final Cut Pro 10 if you were going to upgrade? So right now he has a 2012 iMac with 4 gigabytes of RAM. And he's wondering, is it worth it to put 16 gigs of RAM in the computer? Will that make any difference?
Okay, so when we talk about SSDs and storage and memory, basically you can think of it like this. Like the very slowest thing is spinning hard drives. Then SSDs are like order of magnitude faster than a spinning hard drive. And then the RAM inside your computer is like another little cache area where you can store data, and it's yet another order of magnitude faster than an SSD. So it definitely does matter. 4 gigs, I think you will definitely notice a performance problem. I think 8 is probably a reasonable number, but if you're going to be doing an upgrade anyway, I'm guessing, it's not that much money. 16
I think
is
says it's only like $140
to
upgrade to 16.
Yeah, definitely would go straight to 16. I think you'll find people who do have 8 gigs say, hey, everything seems to be working pretty well. I think 4K would be less sluggish, but if you're going to be doing the upgrade anyway, just go all the way to 16. It will definitely make use of it.
Well, and when I got my latest iMac, I think out of the box, the one that, I I just kind of bought like a package that they had readily available because I needed one like that day. It was kind of crazy. And so I got the computer that they had in stock, and I think it had 8 gigs of RAM in it. And so I was going to upgrade, and I think I did some Googling because I was wondering, does it make sense to go to 16 or does it make sense to go to 32? And this guy had done this benchmark performance test on a bunch of different rendering and playbacks, and kind of found like 16 will definitely improve this. And then he found like 32 will only improve it like almost a negligible amount. Like you'll get like a quarter second better render time on this or something.
Yeah.
So I kind of just thought like, yeah, it sounds like 16 is about as much as I would need.
Did you ever upgrade, or are you still running on 8?
No, I definitely upgraded right away. Like I think what I did is I bought the computer, and simultaneously I bought some RAM, and like I think I made an appointment at a different store that would install the RAM for me. Yeah, so by like the next day I had the computer I needed.
Beautiful. Still got that Fusion drive though.
Yeah.
Which makes me so sad. All right, we've got an email from Austin. I'm not sure if you've talked about this on the show, but is there anything you or Nick do to help your Mac run faster or last longer or jump higher? No, I just said it that part. I'm always worried about my computer crashing someday and being out of work for a while. Any tips or best practices would be appreciated.
I mean, the only thing I do, and you probably have better tips than me, I've always heard that having like a really full hard drive is going to degrade performance. Is that true?
It can. You do need the ability to kind of swap data in and out, so I'd keep it under 90% full if you can. But that's not going to hurt the long-term longevity of the system.
Right.
It might have bad performance. So yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really the only thing I'm thinking about is like, oh, if my computer's like super slow, maybe I should just make sure I'm, sometimes I only have like 2 gigs left on my 2 terabyte drive or something, and so I'll get rid of a quarter of the stuff on the hard drive. But beyond that, I'm not doing any like regular maintenance. Should I be?
No, I think you're probably okay. I mean, that's one of the things I like about Macs is they don't need as much care and feeding as Windows. Although, I've got Windows 10 here, I've got my Mac here, and they've both been great. Malware is starting to get targeted towards Macs a little bit more. There is a program called Malwarebytes, which if you felt like you might have some malware issues is what I'd recommend on the Mac, though I have yet to decide I need that running on my Mac. Other than that, stay up to date on your software updates. But I would never, like, if it's day 1 of a software update, I probably would install it. I might wait a week and make sure there's no problems, because there certainly have been updates which have caused some issues, and you don't want to be stuck for a couple days waiting for a quick update to that update to come out. So just make sure you're staying up to date on updates, and I think you'll be fine.
What about, like, if Apple releases, like, a security patch, do they talk about that differently than a normal software update? Like, is there a reason to upgrade to that immediately if like they know there's some vulnerability?
If you see, every once in a while we get one of these day 0 bugs that can cause data loss. So I would, if you're hearing about a big security issue, those usually I would update right away. If they're really bad, Apple has the ability to force the update to you without you even accepting it, which actually is great. I mean, it sounds bad, but it's really great that they can do that. And I think they had to use that once in the last year, some big security issue, and they patched it for everybody regardless.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy. So we have an Instagram message from Saif, who is wondering, after traveling with a lot of gear, what tripods have you found work well, being lightweight but stable enough for the GH5? I forget. Do you have a
answer. Lightweight tripod? Well, I have like the tripod we bought in high school a million years ago.
Oh, the Manfrotto one.
And then I have like a really cheapy small like Sunpack tripod, and it's a garbage, but it works fine for on my desk. So
well, yeah, that's the one you use for the podcast, right?
I'd recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact,
but I wouldn't travel like if it would probably break in 2 seconds if I tried to travel with it. It's not very tall. It's not tall enough for real video work and things like that.
Well, yeah, I have my Manfrotto, which is a little bit newer than the one that we had in high school. And then I did buy a Manfrotto that looks like it's as old as the one we had in high school. I just bought that as a backup for another project. But then I could have used my big Manfrotto tripod today to shoot the podcast, but because of this new setup, I kind of needed to put my tripod on my desk like you're doing, and so I decided to use my more lightweight one, the MePhoto Road Trip Carbon Fiber, which, like all of my equipment, is, you can see everything I use at griffinhammond.com/gear. But that is a super lightweight tripod, is, you know, has plenty of support for the GH5, but it's pretty good for traveling. But it's kind of expensive because it's carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber. Sounds badass, though. We got a tweet from Nicholas. Is it possible to burn in captions in Final Cut Pro 10 upon exporting? I understand that you can export them as a file for use online or in a player like QuickTime, but how can I burn them into the video so they appear automatically?
So this is an interesting question, because what he's saying is you have a caption file, which is not part of the video. It plays separately from the video, but it adds captions onto the video during playback. But some clients might be like, no, I actually want the captions burnt onto the video so people don't have the choice whether or not to use them. And my first thought was, well, why wouldn't you just create titles? But I could see a situation where maybe you have like 1,000 captions already. Or there's software like transcribing software that I've used that can create captions for you, but it can't create titles for you. So maybe if I started with an hour-long transcription, imported those captions into Final Cut, I could do that through SpeedScriber. We did a whole episode on SpeedScriber and captions. Then how could I then convert those to titles? So I looked it up, and there's actually a piece of software that's free. It's called Xtitle Caption Convert, and it will take the existing captions track that you have in Final Cut and change it into titles. And I think you have some options on like how these titles are going to look, but that's one free option that'll do it very quickly. And then there's also a piece of software called Caption Burner that's $130, and they apparently both do the job.
There you go.
Our final question today is an email from Tim, who has been reading our filmmaking tips about marketing and distribution, and he's making a film right now, and his plan is to use about 25% of his film could be stock footage that he gets on stock video sites. It's because he shot the doc in New York, but he lives in Hawaii, so, you know, if he needs some extra New York City shots, he can't just like get back over here really easily. So his question is that okay? Will he run into any issues using that much stock footage?
I think as long as he's licensed it appropriately, meaning, you know, you didn't just take it, you paid for it, and you got a license to, you know, a copyright license to use it, I don't see any problem with that.
Right. I mean, I told him that, like, it could be expensive. Stock footage can be really expensive. Like, for some projects I've done recently, I've paid, like, almost $200 per clip for a 4K piece of footage to license it. So you might have a really big price tag at the end of all of this, but I think you could make a film that's 100% stock footage, and even if people recognize the footage, like, you have the license to it, so I think you're completely legally okay. Although if you use like really recognizable stock footage,
do you have any concerns artistically with, you know, it not being your own footage?
I mean, I do struggle when I'm looking through stock footage. You know, a lot of it can look really different. You know, some of it might be shot kind of in a flat color profile, or some of it might have a really burned in, contrasty look. And, you know, just where people place cameras, sometimes I feel like you're mixing all these different visual styles. So it usually takes me a while to sift through everything and find something that I'm happy with. I guess one thing I would make sure that you're doing, you know, especially if you're like taking this to film festivals and stuff, is double check what the license lets you do. You know, make sure you're purchasing a license that gives you the right to show this in theaters. Hopefully it's a license that gives you perpetual usage. You know, I mean, I don't know what sites would tell you, like, you have to stop using it after 5 years or something. But, you know, can you take this to film festivals, show it in theaters? Can you distribute it on the internet? Can you burn it onto Blu-rays and sell them? Just make sure everything you want to do with your film is covered by this license. And you may even find that you can buy different licenses at different prices that give you different things you're allowed to do with the film. But yeah, I see no reason that
Boom.
you can use as much as you want. I used I used some archival footage in Sriracha, and I used other people's YouTube videos and photos, and I just had them sign a release form for all that.
Beautiful work.
For some reason, I always try to put our "hey, we're not lawyers" kind of questions right at the end. For some reason, I like to end on a "we don't know what we're talking about."
A legal question. Yeah. Maybe your child will grow up to be a lawyer, and then it'll all work out. And you'll
I'm always needing a lawyer, so I should
could be good.
Get my kid really interested in lawyering.
Congratulations, sir. We're very excited for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. I have, let's see.
And I think we have finished this episode, have we not?
Yeah. We're done. We've done it. We've added another 40 minutes to our total podcasting total.
Good for us. And we're not stopping, but we are tweaking. We're tweaking the format.
Yes.
And that's okay. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure some people will be sad that we're going to stop doing regular 45-minute episodes, but I think a lot of other people will be really happy that we're doing more targeted, quick episodes, and that I'll probably be putting out more quick tutorial videos as well.
Yeah, get back to work, Griffin.
In fact, did you see, I just put out a minute long or like a 2-minute long video on Monday.
I saw something about somebody going for a run, but I haven't actually watched it yet.
Yeah, this is my friend Alex. Do you remember, Alex is the one who beat me in the 10-mile race?
I remember that, yes.
And we made that really fun jib video, like promoting the race, but then he ultimately destroyed me. That was a race when I actually thought that I could beat him. But Alex has become really, really fast, and so there's this mile-long race in New York. It just goes down Fifth Avenue, and the people that win this race, I don't know, they must do it in like close to 4 minutes. Maybe it's even better than that. I don't know.
That's very fast.
But I was just paying attention to the media division. They invite a bunch of reporters and people like that who work in television and media to participate, clearly, because it's, it's a way to get them to write about your race if you actually invite the media to run it. So Alex works at the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and he was going to run this thing, and he was really hopeful that he could win the race because he came in, I think, 3rd last year, and he won he was like the best in like the entertainment division. He was beat by like Runner's World people. So this year he set out to run his fastest mile ever, so I showed up with my camera and just kind of documented it.
And you're not going to tell us if he did it? Was he successful?
I suppose I should just make you watch the video to find out.
Watch and find out. Watch and find out. Wow. Really pushing those views up, Griffin. I like it. That's how you market people. That's how it's done.
I'll get like 5 more views on the video because I was cagey about it on the podcast.
Exactly. I feel like I have to watch it now.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. We will talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you next week when we have John on the show.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm looking at your video page. Like, your thumbnails have gotten really good.
Oh, thanks.
You know? Like, I don't know. You just stepped them up.